Good evening. My name is Tracy Webster, and I'm here to speak to you about Jane Addams. Jane Addams is known as a social reformer, social worker, and a progressive pragmatist. Jane Addams, from the time she was a young child, actually she was born into a relatively wealthy family, but from the time she was a young child, she saw disparities in the wealth and the opportunities around her, and made a statement to her father when she was 7 years old that why do people live in small houses that were, run down, etc. Her father explained to her that it was due to the fact that they were poor. She came back and stated that she would live in a big house when she got older, but she would live with these people to help them out. And that is the start of her activism, social reform, life work. As I said, she came from a somewhat wealthy family, was able to go to college, spent her time in college, and didn't have many opportunities for herself afterwards. They was very limited to what women were able to do back at that time. So she kind of was trying to find herself, tried medical school, that didn't work, had no interest in marriage or the traditional roles for women. So it took her a while. Actually, it was about a decade-long depressive state where she was trying to figure out what she wanted to do with her life. At one point, she decided that she was going to go to Europe, and actually she went twice. She was fortunate enough to have the wealth to do that. So her second trip to Europe, she came across a settlement house called Toynbee Hall, which was run by a group of young men over there in London, and they were there to help the poor and the oppressed in the London area by living with them to show them how to better their lives. Jane became very inspired by this, came back home, and decided to open up her own settlement house in Chicago, which is where she was living, and called it the Hull House. She employed the help from one of her college friends, Ellen Gates Starr, and they founded the Hull House in 1889. It was open up to basically anybody that needed help. At the time, immigration, there was a lot of immigrants coming into the United States or in that area, and they had kind of secluded themselves into what was called ethnic enclaves, where Italians stay with the Italians, Polish stay with the Polish, etc. So this became an opportunity for people to get together into one community and have a community-based support system. What Jane did with this is provided variety of services, from childcare when she saw that the women that were there needed help with taking care of the kids, essentially after school care for the school-age children, teaching them girls cooking and boys, other trades, or provided life skills, because there was a lot of immigrants that did not know how the American banking system worked, and also provided adult education classes. This became Jane's passion. This was her life work. She actually was 50 years doing this, from the time she founded it to the time she stopped, which I believe was at the time of her death. She spent 50 years on this. She opened it up to everybody and anybody that needed help, whether they were immigrants, whether they were just, poor in the area, just anybody who was disadvantaged, no questions asked. And her and the other women that helped her run this house lived in this area with her. So her focus on education was informal, but it was a communitarian approach, meaning that it takes the community to help educate everybody, that it cannot be left up to the individual to do so, that it has to be a societal support system as well. In addition to Jane's work with Hull House, she also participated was on the board and part of the founding partners with the NAACP, the ACLU, and the Women's International League for Peace. On top of this, she was an author, and she also had earned a Nobel Peace Prize in, I believe, 1930 for her work that she had done in social reform and activism. Again, while Jane doesn't have a straight educational philosophy, her approach was that education was meant for everybody, and that no matter what the situation that they found themselves in, there was always an opportunity to better themselves. Thank you.